Alright, if that's how you want to play it, that's how I'm gonna play it.
Yo.
Alright. I'm just waiting for the stream to finish warming up.
Fuck. There are some great feather hats.
Oh no.
Oh my god. Holy
One of
shit. Sorry, I just gotta send you guys a picture of this one because this is amazing.
Just so you know, there is a chance that I fuck up the blue.
Oh yeah, I know, but I'm gonna
In which
wear
case
it
you
anyway.
get a mangled ass feather.
Worth it.
It looks like it just caught on fire and it's just completely burnt out.
Yeah.
Well, actually, once I use it, that's what it looks like. It gets bedraggled every time it's used until it's recharged.
Yeah, it's sort
all
of
floppy and flaccid.
it shrivels away. Alright, so guys, we should be live. If anyone can go and check on the.
We're live. I can see. We're good.
Alright, good. In that case, Silera, it is your turn to do the summary for the last time that we played.
Alright. So, last time we played on Rise of the Runelords, the Skirmishers. So last we Skirmishers.
Skirmishers.
Last we left off, we found a warehouse that had noise happening all up in there, and I remember that we didn't want to camp right there, so we wanted to check out to see what was in there. And so Robin went ahead and walked forward, and he said that he was hearing whispers and like pieces of wood crackling, and then that like there were a bunch of barrels that started like slowly rolling down towards us, and there's a man that was crying in pain. So you know, like we do, we go in and see what's up. And he didn't look very well at all. And so Dorban decided to see if he could help and proceeded to try to drag him out of the warehouse. And when he did that, the guy was just trying to drag him down, and he could see like wounds on his neck that were like really, really deep. And so we fought him back and tried to make sure that he didn't hurt any of us, and we killed him. Well, Red demolished him.
I didn't mean to kill him that much.
You sort of
crit happens.
Like killing him, and then it's like you really killed him. It was like there's.
I think I shish kebabbed him, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Yes, you did. And then I don't remember who it was, but one of us went to inspect the body and looked in his mouth and saw that there were pieces of fingers in his mouth, which is super cool. And we also noticed that there were bloody footprints along the back wall, and then a set of footprints that were somebody had walked out the door.
Yep.
And there were bodies off to the north, bird directions. And they all had 7-pointed stars carved in their bodies. And one was done really well, but one of them, the rest of them were poorly done. Robin went up to check upstairs to see if there was anything, while the rest of us went to bury bodies. And then we stayed in the warehouse overnight. And then we all kind of took turns watching, keeping watch. And Sigus and I heard a sound of a sitar in the distance, but it ended up nothing came from that. Dorban and Erica were the last people that did their watch, and there was a noise outside, and they went outside. There was a carving into the side of a building with a poem next to it that said something about golden flowing mane or some sort of romantic poem. We decided that we were going to board it up, put a note saying what happened, and then head back to Sandpoint. We parted ways with Erica, and we delivered the head to the mayor. Well, Red did, and then we kind of went off and started doing our own thing, and that's pretty much where we left off.
Yeah. So just a quick sort of detailing that you might have skipped over. You did come across the guards that are sort of on patrol in the Lost Coast Road on your way to Sandpoint, and you sort of talked to them about the incident, and then you also alerted the sheriff at Sandpoint about what had happened.
Yes.
She just ignored everything that I did.
Listen, I
Pretty
wasn't
much.
there, so
But yeah, so last session where we ended up, Robin had gone over to the cathedral to talk to Father Santos, having a few concerns about the future of his career. Let's put it that way. Talking about some of the possibilities that the future might hold for him. Specifically, he was talking about perhaps becoming a paladin in the future. Dorban, you sort of handle most of the paperwork for the incident, whereas Celera, you sort of were at the tavern, trying perhaps to get a little bit of information or getting to know the couple of adventurers that you met there that night a little bit better. Celera, is there anything else that you'd like to go over in that conversation?
I'm trying to remember everything that I asked. I asked where they came from, right?
You asked where they came from, what brought them to Sandpoint, and where they were going. And to that, they had told you that they were coming from Magnamore. They were just staying the night and they were on their way to the north.
Well, I'm just gonna be like, well, we just killed the devil of Sandpoint. So if you need any help tracking down anything, me and my crew are pretty good.
Skilled the devils of Sandpoints. That's the rather burly man with his face cloaked. He sort of speaks with a very heavy lisp. And when he does speak, you see the lady sort of look at him a little bit awkwardly, and then over to you and says, he's not usually this talkative, but yeah, is that true? Did you fight that creature?
He sure did. We've been on a lot of adventures, actually. It's really fun to, go adventuring, and it gives me really good material for any time that I need to perform, because that's my favorite thing, is to perform.
Mm-hmm.
But adventuring is really fun. What do you guys like about it?
It's not exactly that I like it. It's more, I guess it's something that needs to get done. Fights. Good fights. Yes, my friend here tends to, well, he enjoys a good battle. Anyway, if I find myself, well, we find ourselves in need of help, I guess I'll keep you in mind for it.
Absolutely. I'm good friends with Amiko over there, so if you can't find me, I'm sure she knows where I am, or what I'm doing, or...
Certainly. I'll keep that in mind. Is there anything else we can help you with?
No, I just wanted to, welcome new people that have come in. This little town is, most of the people here are pretty nice and very welcoming, so I just wanted to officially welcome you.
Thank you, then. But if you don't mind, I think we're gonna finish up with our food and just turn in for the night.
Okay, sounds good. Can I do a sense motive on both of them?
Certainly, you can. Give me 2 different sense motives.
Of course I don't have my character sheet out. I'm like an idiot.
Completely unacceptable.
Kicked.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to grab. Not perception. Close, but no cigar. Oh my gosh, oh my god, there I am. Jesus.
Alright. So which one do you wanna dedicate to which character?
I was gonna do, honestly, before I even looked at it, it was gonna be like homeboy girl.
Okay. So homeboy, as you're trying to get a good feel for them, they really are sort of holding themselves back. Is the feeling that you get? You're not sure if it's that they want to say something or that they just want to take off. But they are sort of, you get that sort of anxious feeling where they have their claws sort of tapping on the table and slowly scratching away at the top of the wooden surface. The girl sort of, you get the feeling that she's also aware of that, what's going on, and she sort of wants to end that conversation there and get the big guy into bed.
Well then.
You're my phrasing might have been a little bit vague there. Yes, I just realized.
She's fucking trying to get it.
A third? Okay, anyways. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna kind of go back to the bar and just kind of like keep an eye on them. Just because you made it seem like they're ready to go, but like, I don't know what that means. I don't know what...
I mean, you don't know what that means, because usually that's sort of not very well conveyed. It's sort of that anxiousness that puts you on guard. But sure enough, like, once you sit down at the bar, Amiko sort of pours you a second shot of that pinkish drink that she's sort of experimenting with. You see the two that you were talking to just a moment ago sort of wrap things up, and they get up and head upstairs. The big guy sort of heads up upstairs first, and the lady sort of takes a last look at you as she sort of got one foot on the first step of the stairs. She sort of gives you a nod before heading upstairs.
What kind of nod?
Saw, good night, my dude, kind of nod.
Okay.
She's having a seizure.
She starts spasming on the floor. What do you do?
Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Alright, so, despite how active you've been for the last couple days, the next 2 days sort of come and go pretty uneventfully. It's mostly a time where you get, for the first time in a little bit of a long time, to rest up, heal your wounds, and mingle with the city at large.
Guys, I finally healed my strength damage.
Same.
You finally heal from those shades that you fought so long ago now.
I know, right?
Yep.
Like 2 months ago, did you fight those shades in out of game time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real time, yes.
Yes. In-game time was like
is like 3 days.
Yeah.
4 days.
3 very action-packed days.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Dorbin, you spend your days and or afternoons performing the sacred rites at the cathedral. You've sort of been talking about perhaps getting an altar dedicated to Abadar.
I believe that's how it's pronounced.
Okay. I'm just having trouble to keeping all the deities apart because there's so many of them. They try to remember if because they have 6 of them. I'm trying to remember if they do in fact have one to them. I think they don't. Give me 1 sec, very quickly.
I know. I honestly don't. Remember.
They do. They do. They do. They have an altar to Abadar, one to Desna, Eristil, Gothre, Sarenrae, and Shellen. But yeah, you managed to sort of for the couple of days that you're available, take over the procession, the daily processions for the section of the cathedral dedicated to Abadar, and you're quite well received. In fact, you get the feeling that there are people coming from town, not just to pay respects to Abadar, but to actually listen to your sermons, to hear what you have to say in the name of Abadar. One of the people that do visit your service in the afternoon of the first day is an old lady, or at least she looks like an old lady, who stays after you finish your sermon and sort of approaches you, and she just sort of hands you a sheet of paper, about the size of a large card.
I accept it.
Sure. It's just sort of a business card from the looks of it. It simply says the name of the madame who has just invited you, and it has a direction on one of the streets in Sandpoint. It's just by the entrance to the south of Sandpoint. It's the first building before you get to what was that? Sorry, it's the first building before you get to the Rusty Dragon, so you might as well visit it at some point. And by the time that you sort of look up from the business card, she's sort of already turned and is about halfway down the aisle, heading out from the cathedral.
Alright, I'll like fold it up. Honestly, I'd probably just like throw it in a pouch or something.
All right. Aside from that, your 2 days of service go pretty much uneventfully, and overall they seem to be quite well appreciated. Sigis, you are spending your days as per usual, confined within a room, mostly a dark one, tinkering away at some kind of magical implement. What's the 2 items that you need to create? One of them doesn't present much of a challenge for you. The second one, however, I believe has a very small, a fraction of a chance of going poorly.
There's a chance I fuck this up. Sigis has been like super excited. Like he is all about trying to be like a better wizard, and this is the first magical items he's gonna create. And so he decides the first one he's gonna make is this like pearl of power that'll let him cast more spells, and also to be a good kind of warm up. Like, I'm gonna start with an easy project.
Yeah.
Hopefully not fuck this up.
So what kind of shape do you want to give this pearl of power?
Okay, so it's gonna be this like big, like kind of like the size of like a big grape, a blue orb, like a blue glass,
Sorry, how big did you want to make it?
What?
I was
Says
like
they're
a grape.
Grapes are huge.
Grape. Like
Oh, grape.
G-R-A-P.
Oh,
Got it.
grape. Okay, yeah.
All
All right.
right.
So it's like an inch in diameter. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys know Flavor Flay, right?
Fucking ginormous pearl of power.
I feel
The
like,
fucking
what is that?
watermelon? Just
Pearl
fucking
power
do it.
Level
That'd
1.
be amazing.
What are those?
All right. So you
Huge big dick energy.
so you're going for a grape-sized blue sort of crystalline shape. Sorry, crystalline form of the pearl of power. All right. So as you, I believe that if you take 10, you more than meet the DC for the pearl of power.
Yes, there's no way I can fail.
Okay.
It,
So
it has a DC of 6.
exactly. So
Oh.
So
over the course of one day, most of the day, you sort of concentrate, pouring the essence of your spells into a very tiny point in space. You're sort of pouring all of your magical essence into that point, and it sort of starts to crystallize, and it starts to begin to form this purely blue crystal that starts to expand and sort of bubble and boil until it takes the shape of what looks to be an empty orb, sort of a very thin layer of glass surrounding this empty space. And as soon as it's fully formed and you feel your power sort of start to pour into the inside of it, you see a small sparkle of light inside of the pearl, and it starts to cloud inside of it. You see a sort of a, it's not quite smoke, but it feels like a, almost like a milky liquid starts to fill the inside of that bubble. And as you hold it up, your product finished, you get a little bit of light going through it, and it almost looks like you're staring at the starry sky at night, with that sort of cloudy Milky Way feel to it. Otherwise, it does look pretty sort of blue shifted sky.
awesome. Sigis is super excited, and he's like has a huge celebration. Does throw some couple f-bombs in the air. He's in a dark room by himself, but he's super pumped. He's gonna, use some wire, and he's gonna like kind of twist it so it's try and look like tree roots to kind of hold it, and he's gonna throw that on a necklace. And he's gonna use Crafter's Fortune because he's not very great with his hands, but he can still kind of hopefully make some kind of.
Sure. Given that you're spending that spell for this, and it's a very easy kind of craft, it's a very rudimentary craft, I'll give it to you. You sort of twist the wire into the shape of roots holding this miniature galaxy, and strap it onto a cord necklace.
He'll probably get a better way for it later, but he kind of wants it on. He's gonna tuck it down his shirt, and that's kind of it for his first day. As he's and he's gonna spend kind of the rest of that. He's been out and about. He visited the scroll shops. He placed a couple orders that I talked to you about.
Mm-hmm.
He bought a couple scrolls, and he's also went out to find all the materials he's gonna make for this plume. Him and Red have been talking about, some of the things that could benefit, and kind of seeing how some of those clutch hits have been really helpful at, saving party members, and he kind of thinks more versatility in that could really help out. So he's gone out and he's found this like big poofy white feather from like a weird bird. And so
you could you probably had to visit the market, the marketplace by the docks, and there's a wide variety of birds that you could procure feathers from. Any color in particular?
It is red usually, but you know what? Let's just go with a classic. I think we'll go with the classic white feather.
All right.
If he wants, we can dye the feather lightly later.
Sure. You managed to procure yourself a really puffy swan feather. It's probably like an adult down feather.
Sweet.
All right, so
So-
let's see that spellcraft check
Yes.
and see what happens. So you're trying to make what is it called? The plume.
DC is
Plume
The
of
plume of panache.
I
It's a
believe
fifth
it's
level.
DC 15, so he should be able to take a 10 and make it.
DC 15.
Yeah.
Can I take 10 on these?
You
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
Oh. then I totally can. I spelled
Now
like
hang on.
11.
Do you have the spell heroism?
Do not, which is
That's
why
that's
it's,
where the 15 comes from. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
Oh, is
it? Okay.
5.
Okay, sure.
Pass the level 5.
Then I mean, then your practice makes it just bearable enough that you manage to not lose concentration during the important bits of the magical item creation. And sure enough, by the end of your second day of hard work, toiling away at the magical items, the feather sort of floats on its own just above your palm, and it almost has that sort of illusionist kind of I'm making the feather levitate, but it's levitating on its own. And it sort of has this faint shimmer every now and then that you catch, sort of reflecting the natural light of the room.
Awesome. This is the most amazing thing that Sig has ever done in this moment. Like, he is top of the moon right now. He is so excited. He doesn't know what to do with himself.
Are you
Pretty much
showing it
did.
off? Are you showing it off later tonight,
Wait.
perhaps?
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Later on, but he's kind of.
I was gonna say,
meet up
Red
with the
definitely
crew.
wants to see this thing.
I'll go once I'm done and I'm kind of like sullied. I'm going to kind of gather my stuff and head off to kind of meet the party where at a predetermined meeting point.
Sure. Like usually you guys end up having dinner together at the Rusty Dragon Inn. So it's very likely that by the time that you're done with the plume, it's sort of getting late, and you would manage to show it off during dinner. That being said, Robin, you've been toiling away at a different kind of craft. You've been hitting the docks for the past couple of days, trying to get good deals, trading in and out some merchandise required for the revival of a local craft. As you've been sort of, you've managed to procure some fine quality sand, some silver dust, some mercury, some quicksilver, all in order to make sure that the newest apprentices for the glassworks have all the materials that they're required for their craft.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything in particular that you would like to impart upon the new recruits that you're sort of trying to get acquainted with your foreign crew? Let's call it that.
Well, pretty much what Robin's thinking is the glasswork needs a little bit of brain and a little bit of muscle. Now, 6, he's not necessarily a glass worker by trade, but he is aware that Bell is an alchemist and Bell has tinkered with glass before. So it would pretty much be the mechanical equivalent of Bell taking one rank of profession glassworker kind of thing, and he would impart that on everybody else and help train them kind of thing. Like 6, the little boy, and then whoever else wants to, do the glass making from the rescued lot. The problem is the muscle, because nobody that was rescued is particularly like burly and heavy lifting type.
Nope.
So as part of Robin going about the docks, he's probably going to look for a couple people that are, reliable, maybe need an extra part-time gig.
Sure.
Not necessarily someone that's completely down on their luck and is just untrustworthy and disgusting. Like admirable enough people because he's wants it to be safe for these people he's rescued.
Sure. What you do find is that the docks seem to be a little bit short on hand compared to how it used to be when uh, the guild, let's call it that, the guild was working, operating at full capacity, under Visky's control. But still, there's a few dock workers that might be interested in doing some private work away from the sea.
Yeah.
Sure enough, yeah, no, then you've managed to procure yourself a pair of very muscular arms. Um, any particulars that you'd be looking for besides looking trustworthy?
I mean, you just said that it's like you just said that there's not really a lot to pick from, and it's
Not
kind of
really.
a beggars can't be choosers situation. So honestly, somebody that seems like they can do the work, somebody that seems like they want an extra job, kind of thing.
Sure. So the two people that you managed to get your hands on, one of them is a oh damn, I forgot the name. The nomad tribes, they're called
Shawanti.
Shwanti, thank you.
Okay.
It was failing me. One of the two people that you find is a Shwanti woman who stands about 6'3", and with enough muscle that her arm sort of covers about half of your torso.
Gotcha.
So she's got muscle to spare, and she seems to be looking for something a little bit more solid than sea work, a little bit more reliable. The other person that you managed to get is a local dock worker who's well acquainted with what happened to the glassworks, and he's been sort of a little bit down, having lost a friend that was part of the crew that used to work there.
Okay. All right.
All right. Red, what are you up to
Hey.
these 2 days?
Well, Red is continuing in his not knowing what the fuck to do with himself now that he's not in the gang thing. So he's basically just taken to hanging out with Zix when he's not working, trying to learn Minkayan, and in terms of actually doing stuff, he's more than anything probably just acting as a runner for the glassworks. So, like, we need this from the town or that from the town.
Certainly. So you've been working.
He has squarely nothing to do, basically.
Certainly. So you've mostly been working with Robin, sort of you handling the things at the office itself, whereas Robin has been sort of making sure you get good deals on the merchandise.
Yeah. Red's good at keeping people in line.
Sure. Sort of keeping an eye out, make sure that nobody messes with the kids and Six. Is there anything in particular you'd like to learn about Six?
Well, I don't know. Aside from the language, I know that he's been pretty cagey. So, Red probably wouldn't pry too much, knowing the kind of upbringing that people can have might not be apparent. But if Ziggs is willing to like volunteer anything about like how they ended up where they were, or how they, that kind of thing.
He doesn't bring up the fact that he was at some point captured or enslaved and eventually brought here, but at one point he sort of catches you probably going through ledgers trying to make sense of where you're gonna put all of the stock that Robin keeps bringing, and how you're going to distribute the workload between the kids and Six and the two new workers. And Six sort of points out at one point a line on the ledger. It says, I think we can do we can save some money if we save up on this material and we can store this over there. Sorry for my intrusion.
No. I'm more than happy that you've intruded. To be honest, maths aren't my strong suit, if you were. I'm more of a people person. So, actually, if you wouldn't mind, I know we're on a bit of a break right now, so it'd be kind of intruding into your break. But would you be willing to go over this with me?
No, of course. Would you like me to teach you then?
Well, I mean, if you feel that you can do that, I mean, I can do my basic numbers, but you seem to have some expertise here.
I wouldn't call it expertise, but I know a thing or two about books and math. It happens to be a very common subject in them.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, so were you like in a library or something for a while?
I used to work as a librarian, yeah.
Huh. I never would have figured you for a librarian, but that's because I haven't had you shush me yet, I don't think.
Not that kind of librarian, but I'm more of the archivist. Well, used to be anyway.
Huh. Have you gotten a chance to talk to our local sage?
No, I've been trying not to go on outside. You know, with my looks, I'd rather not get people on my bad side.
Well, I mean, that's fair, but I mean, if you'd like, I could arrange a meeting. He's got more books than anyone else I know of outside of Magnemar. And he tends not to judge books by their cover, if you take my meaning.
That's a very clever pun. Love it.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but thank you.
I would love to arrange to get to meet this sage of yours.
Any interest in particular, I can go talk to him and tell him to bring some books that you'd be interested up in. I'm sure you guys could talk for hours. Although that may be a problem. He does not shut up once you get him started.
Oh, I think any subject would do. I've been starved for a good read for a few years now.
Well, least I can do.
Thank you very much. That's it's very kind of you, Red.
Well, can't I turn over this whole new nice guy leaf? So, I mean, you guys are kind of when that started, so it makes sense.
Well, thank you for your kindness, and even if it's just part of you turning a new leaf, I think you deserve the credit. So, really, thank you.
All right.
All right. So, do you end up setting up the meeting with the sage that very same day?
Sure. Yeah, he'd kind of like, cause he normally after kind of working hours and hanging out with those guys, he kind of heads back and hangs out with the team at the Rusty Dragon.
Rusty Dragon. All right.
Yeah.
So here's a question: how do you broach the subject to the sage, or well, maybe to the party itself? Because as you're well aware, 6 is a tiefling, and tieflings are not usually seen upon kindly in Verizia.
And I mean, this would be something he'd probably talk over with Robin, who's kind of the brains of the operation at this point, to make sure that he thinks it's cool too. But if he gets approval, would kind of sell it as we've got a foreign archivist and kind of leave out the tiefling sort of thing to get the sage interested, because he's always ravenous for knowledge, as we've seen. So,
Sure,
tell him
so-
we've got a foreign
Yeah, I mean-
Italian archivist.
I mean, if you come to Robin and you ask, Robin would be like, the sage is a pretty smart fellow. I mean, smart people. I mean, he's old, so he might be racist, sure, but he's also pretty smart. So I feel like because he's smart, he'd be willing to be like, he'd have the knowledge that not all tieflings are bad, because he's been alive long enough that he probably knows a couple good tieflings.
Right,
Right.
because old people definitely get less racist.
Yeah, definitely.
Well,
I mean,
all the time.
he's smart.
Oh,
old
that's
people,
how that
though.
works. Sorry.
Yeah,
not
he's
there.
smart and old though. There's a key difference there.
That's true.
Yeah, he hasn't gotten dumb in his old age. Yeah, so Red would kind of be like, well, yeah, that's what I was thinking, but you know, sometimes I don't have the best judgment, so I wanted to check with you first,
So-
That's a very good call.
which is ironic, all
Well.
things considered. All right, yeah. So he'd go and set that up with the sage then.
Sure. This is probably happening during dinner on the second day. So around this time it would be when Sigurd is finished with his magical feather, and it's around that time that you get to get one last little bit of time to mingle with your party before heading out heading in for turning in the night. So, I mean, Sigus, if you wanted to show the feather to Red, this would be like the prime time to do it.
Walking in, big dick energy's like, hands it out, like, raises it up, and like, over dramatic. It's like, I have made it for you, like, and it's like really awkward. He's like, it's a magical feather. I am making magic. He's like, he's like totally
So
self-focused.
so as you're saying, like I made a
Kind of rambling.
yeah, as you saying, like I've made a magical feather, and you're sort of showing it around. Every time that you move it around, it sort of leaves the faintest trail of sort of sparkles in the air.
It's dope.
Ooh.
I-
What? So question. What does it do? Is it
Well,
for
me?
writing?
No. It's for you. You're gonna put it in a hat. You're gonna put it in a hat, and it will make you more extravagantly good. And he like does a
Huh.
hand gesture thing. He's like, it'll make you, only every once in a while, more so. No?
Did you take some of the magic dust that the feather is shedding and snort it, or is this?
I have been inhaling in a room. There's been a lot of fumes in there. I'll be honest, but I've studied that, and it will wear off in half an hour. But it'll
Huh.
give you bursts of energy.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think I've got just the hat for this. I know we were talking about it, and you said I needed a hat, so I was a little confused. But I've got one, and he pulls out this like kind of wide brimmed, not a. It's like a fedora if the edges were all flat.
Oh god.
So,
Of course
so
it is.
Not a.
Why
fedora,
am I
but-
not surprised?
It's not.
It's not even close to being a
Yeah,
fedora, but
fedora.
Though
God damn
looking
it.
at the photo he has, it kind of like the top kind of looks like it, but the brim not at all.
yeah, no.
That it's like a flat brim hat with that kind of centerpiece from the fedora. I don't know hats, so I don't know what the hell it's called. And honestly, neither
It's
does
kind of like
Red.
a farmer's hat.
Yeah, I guess so. Except it's not made of like.
It sort of looks like a farmer's hat made of felt.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyway, it's nice and fancy. Got a cool little buckle on it, and he like tucks it into the buckle, and does like in shampoo commercials where people do the like hair flip. He kind of does that as he puts on the hat, and just the sparkles go all over the place.
So it's a very strange contrast of things, because Red is doing the thing where he's swiping his hair over and sort of very trying to look as dashing as possible as he's doing so, and he's pulling off the sort of bravado of sort of showing off in the middle of a rowdy bar. And he's putting the hat, and it sort of looks good as he's doing it. However, his face and his ears, particularly his ears, that are like very clearly in display as he's sort of pulling his hair to the side, they just look mangled and destroyed, and he's got the scars on his face that are not adding at all to the charisma that should be pulled off with. And instead, it sort of looks like he's getting ready to kick someone's fucking ass. It's a strange pull and push and pull. You know, he's trying to look charming, but he looks more threatening.
Maybe his ears will grow back someday, and that'll fix that.
In a long time, my friend. In a very long time.
Or once we get those high-level heal spells.
Perhaps. Alright, so, is there anything else people would like to do before turning in for the night? I'll take that as a no. So,
actually, I was gonna go to the lady's house or store front thing.
Sure, the place that you were.
I mean, I would invite everybody.
Certainly.
Let's go.
So what is this thing?
So some old lady gave me her card after listening to my sermon at the cathedral. So I figure we go check it out. I have to assume it's something like what Celera and Robin recently did.
Seems like a good enough excuse to show off my hat. Do I recognize the address?
Judging from the address, it is like pretty much next door.
Walk by it like every day, twice a day.
No, it's because it's closer to the entrance to the city, so it's sort of the side on the side of the Rusty Dragon that you never go to. However,
like roughly there.
it's right there.
Oh.
So the Rusty Dragon is this way, and you usually move towards the north and sort of covering.
Yeah, you're right. 'Cause they usually go to the docks, and then I go to the cathedral. which is
Yeah.
over there.
So it's directly opposite to the way you usually go. But sure enough, as soon as you mentioned the address, and Red has been able to make sense of it, it's most definitely the same place that Robin and Celero went to.
Well, I mean...
Let's go, let's go, let's go.
As long as you don't mind getting your fortunes read, I'm always a little bit leery about this kind of stuff.
I mean, I hope she doesn't charge anything, but I mean, if it's free, then I don't see any harm in it.
Well, I mean, you can do lots of weird stuff with Harrow decks, I think. Oh, anyway, that's what I heard.
I feel the same.
It's like,
To
you
be
know,
fair, it's just something fun to do. Is why I was
Does
suggesting
Sigus
it.
know
I don't actually
anything?
believe in any of this shit.
Does
so.
Sigus know anything of her? Like, is she well known?
She's quite well known locally.
I was gonna say, Red recognized her last time, and Sigus is in town more than Red.
So she is the local madame. She's sort of. She used to be well known as a seeress, as well as a sorceress. However, in her later years, she's had less and less work, and she's sort of become a little bit of a witch doctor sort of scenario, where people go when they're expecting a child to know whether it's going to be a girl or a boy, and to know if their fate is going to be lucky or unlucky.
Like, based on the reputation, like, does Sigus think like she has real ability, or is she like
Her reputation speaks of a time where she used to be a quite powerful seeress, and her family in general has had the ability to foretell the
Cool.
future.
Sweet.
All right, so,
Yeah. Let's
I mean,
get it.
last,
Good at marketing.
I mean, nobody knows. Which probably speaks very negatively of her marketing. That being said, like the lot of you head out. Last thing to do in the day, sort of an evening adventure. Headed over next door, and sure enough, you find the door to the front building is unlocked and slightly ajar. And as you push it in, you find that the interior.
She knew we were coming.
The interior of the building does not match the exterior. It's sort of covered in drapes, and sort of has that heavy incense smell to it, and sort of feels like the air itself is heavy as you're walking in. And sure enough, like turning around the corner, you hear the voice of the woman calling out, "I'm over here, over here." She calls out to you, and you see a pair of candles lit on top of a table that has 9 cards placed in front of her.
I suppose you saw us coming, eh?
I was expecting you, yes.
Good to see you.
It's always good to see you too. Now, if you'd please, take a card. And she's gesturing to the 3 of you, Dorbin, Red, and Sigis.
Alright, I walk up and I take a card.
Sure, which one would you like to take?
You said there's 9?
I mean,
Yeah,
if you look at the screen, there's 9 cards in front of you.
You can just click on them, I think.
You should be able to write.
I was way high. I was looking at the map, so alright.
Okay.
So high.
You should be able to right click and flip.
Alright. What do I want? What's this one?
All right.
Oh, well, that looks pretty gnarly.
What'd you get?
It
The
looks like
midwife.
He's
Oh.
choking a baby.
No,
Well,
the baby's being upside down.
she's delivering a baby because that's what
Yeah.
midwives do.
Midwife is.
No, I know. This is what Red says.
Oh.
Yeah, that's
Red doesn't know
Norman is
anything
literally
about
saying
babies.
Exactly, like no, that's what a midwife does. Is she
Why
delivers babies.
why is the dude behind her crying? Maybe he's happy? I don't know. It's weird.
I mean, with the amount of blood that's everywhere, it could be there was an issue with the pregnancy. Also, the smoke coming off the baby is not great.
It's got a tail. Oh no, wait, that's the cold. Never mind.
Most likely, yeah.
Baby on fire.
Maybe it had a really bad fart.
Nah, but for real, what's the card mean, Madam M?
As she sort of looks at you, Dorbin, and looks at the card, she says, "Sacrifice awaits you in the future. Creation and life will be brought by your hands. But for life to be created, death must surely precede it."
Oh, that's ominous.
I'm sorry. Please, Red, and Sigis. You're welcome to
you
take a
wanna
card.
Go, or
Sure.
do you? Okay.
Sigis cast detect or tried to cast detect magic before going in. Did he get that?
We'll say that as you're sort of overseeing what's going on with Dorbin, you start to cast that detect magic. You don't detect any magic from the cards or her, but you sort of get that a feeling that you're getting a little bit nauseous from trying to maintain that spell while
Ooh.
here.
I'm gonna let that go. That is a ominous sign that there's a lot of magic in the area. All right. I guess I will just not worry about it. And I'm gonna flip this one. I'm gonna take the bottom left. Oh, sweet! I got a unicorn.
Oh my
Fuck
god,
yeah,
a
buddy.
unicorn!
Oh shit.
Alright.
The
So it is
up
called
here?
the unicorn.
It is literally called the unicorn.
I believe.
Guys, you
looks like
guys
a
all got
parrot
fucked
capture.
up cards, and I just got a unicorn.
I got a theater.
I mean, honestly, a midwife card fits me pretty well as a clear.
Yeah.
Sure.
Cause you got big titties.
Yep, because I got big titties.
Titty old bitties, boy.
They're called pecs, lady.
Wait. I want a unicorn.
As you flip the card and look at it, she looks at you and goes, "You've finally found the freedom to adventure that you've always wanted. But freedom is a double-edged sword. It gives as much as it takes. And the fates love to play freely. I think there's one more card to be picked."
Hell.
Well,
Go, Red,
let's
go.
make this a tic-tac-toe situation. I'll take this middle one.
Yeah,
Alright, flip it.
You can right click and flip.
Yeah.
Oh.
Rip.
The idiot.
Oh,
About
come
right.
on!
Wreck. Oh my god.
You are
Alright, she's
most
really, really
definite-
good. She's
Yeah.
really good.
most definitely
Accurate is.
stacked
I
this
mean, Robin
deck.
pulled sickness, right? Like,
Yeah,
I mean, so
yeah.
far, pretty fucking accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Big dumb.
I randomly put them on the table.
Theater?
Yeah.
Alright.
It's almost
We're all
too
pretty
fitting.
accurate.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Aside from being a very funny joke, what the hell does that mean? Well, you cocky little shit.
Pika, pika.
My raven's laughing at me.
She sort of looks at you,
Shut up,
Red.
Korax.
She looks at you, Red, and she gives you a smile, but it doesn't feel like it's a mocking smile. It's more like a sweet smile. And she says, "The idiot isn't always the one to be the last to figure out what's going on. The idiot sometimes is the one who's willing to ignore the warnings and do what must be done. The fates often smile kindly to the fool." I hope I wasn't too scary for you.
Not at all.
Surprisingly accurate, I'll give you that much.
Shut up, Red. You got the good card.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's what I was gonna do anyway. I, keep rolling the dice, living my life by the seat of my pants.
Fair enough.
Right? She sort of gives you all one last smile and says, if you wouldn't mind, I do need to close the shop for the night."
Alright. We appreciate it.
She nods.
See you.
Wait, do you want the cards back?
She sort of,
I assume we just flipped them.
yeah, you sort of flipped them on the table. Unless, I mean, you might have it in your
Yes,
hand.
Red, you're not supposed to take them.
She's sort of
Well,
holding the deck in one hand and sort of offers it to you to put the card on top.
now I have an excuse for doing
Who's
dumb
the
shit.
idiot?
I am the
You know.
idiot.
I mean, you've always been the idiot, regardless of the card.
Hey, now it's official.
True.
I'm gonna hold that one against you, bud.
Okay.
I'm
Alright,
gonna be honest, that-
Alright,
that-
Mr. Syphilis, I know
That's-
what your card is.
Yeah, magic cancer. Yeah, but I got the idiot one in my back pocket. I'm gonna remember that.
All right. With that out of the way, you sort of are bantering on your way out of the shop, and as soon as you guys leave, you hear the door close and lock behind you. and with that, the night sort of ends on a happy note. Perhaps not a positive one, but at least your spirits are jovial.
Yeah.
With that being said, the night comes to an end, and we pick back up the following morning as perhaps a little bit too early. Dorban, you're very likely the only one who's up at this hour. It is just before the break of dawn. The sky that you can see outside your window as you're doing your daily prayers sort of has that still bluish violet tones to it, and you can see the horizon is starting to get that orange tinge to it. And you hear a little bit of movement downstairs, where the rest of the inn is sort of deadly quiet. You hear the footsteps and stomping of boots, military boots, and you hear a little bit of discussion, a little bit of mumble words, starting to break your concentration in your prayers. Silence comes back. A couple minutes go by. You finish your set of prayers, and what would you do immediately after your prayers?
I would probably go see who's talking.
Sure.
Military boots probably means that it's something I'm gonna want to know.
Sure. You head on downstairs then, and sure enough, you find one of the guards was about to leave, and the moment he spots you having come downstairs, he turns on his heels and goes over to you and says, "Sir, good to find you. There's been a little bit of um, an altercation, and the sheriff is looking for you, Dorbin."
Just me?
Well, all of you.
Alright.
I'm assuming that you were. I had assumed that you were together with your companions, but.
They're upstairs still sleeping.
Um,
I can get them.
Surely. There isn't any particular rush, but the sooner you can get to the Scarnetti windmill, the better.
Alright.
Right.
Can do.
All right. The news has been delivered. I'll go back to my office, to my duties, and he sort of turns out. All right. Up to you how you want to handle this.
I go wake everybody up because I don't give a shit.
All right. Sure enough. Robin, do you have you been sleeping at all?
I mean, I haven't been sleeping a lot. I've probably been sleeping like 4 to 6 hours a night, and I haven't really been tired.
Nope. Not at all. Okay, so Dorbin, you knock on Robin's door, and Robin, you were already awake by the time that you hear the knock on the door.
What?
Sheriff wants us. Get up.
I mean,
And I just move to the next door and start pounding on the next.
and I just sort of open the door like fully clothed, like ready to go, and I'm like, what?
All right. Next door would be Silera, and you can go waking everyone up. Right. So I mean, the Scarnetti windmill that was mentioned to you, Dorbin, is this lovely building right over here. I'll zoom in on the map.
Yeah.
So it takes you about 2 minutes to get from the Rusty Dragon to the windmill, and as you're getting there, you can see that there's quite the public gathered up, sort of forming a human fence around the entrance. And as the same guard that went to fetch you spots you, he creates an opening in in the public and sort of ushers you through and says, "Please come on in. The sheriff is waiting inside." And he leads you to the door to the windmill. What? Go ahead, Cedera.
I was gonna walk up next to Dorbin and be like, "What the hell's going on?"
The guards came this morning and said that there was an incident here and that the sheriff wanted us.
Oh,
Can we roll some perceptions and sense motos to like hear what's going on in the crowd while we're walking up?
Certainly. Give me perception checks. Anyone who's keeping an eye out.
Pretty consistent.
All right.
Yeah.
So, Dorbin, Red. Let's see what happened to Robin.
and then there's Robin.
Rip.
Yeah.
So Robin is paying more attention to where you guys are going than what's going on around you. Sigis. Okay, so Dorbin, Red, Sigis, you guys kind of hear a little bit of a murmur going on in the crowd, and the one thing that sort of you pick up and can tell what that was said is someone saying, "I can't believe." I can't believe they are both dead. They were so young. And, like, you can hear that they're in the middle of a conversation gossiping about what just happened. But that's sort of like the prime takeaway that you get. Celera, what you do perceive is, aside from the conversation going on, is that on one of the side windows, on the outside of the windmill, as you're approaching it, you see there's a sort of a... It looks like a brick has been broken and fell from the side of the building, and you can see that there's a very thin red line, almost like a single drop of blood that stretches from the windowsill and down all the way to that broken brick. With that being said, you guys are sort of being led indoors. And as soon as you cross that threshold, you see the sheriff, Baylor, who approaches you guys, waits for the last of you to come in, gestures for one of the guards to close the door, and says, "All right, thank you all for coming as soon as you could. I'm sorry for cutting your rest short, but having had the news that you delivered the other day, and I wasn't expecting the perpetrator of the crime to still be at large, and to be so bold as to come within the confines of our small town, but there's been a murder. Double murder, in fact. I would like to keep the details as private as possible. I'm trusting you lot to be wise about the way you handle the information. I'm gonna have to ask you to take the lead role in this investigation, as well, there's a lot to go through, and I need to focus myself on keeping the public order. There's a lot of information to go through, so let's try to go through it in order. First and foremost, there was a strange finding among the remains of the two victims. Perhaps you might want to be particularly careful about who you let know about this, but there's a pouch has Cylaris' name on it.
Ooh.
Yeah, inside of it we found a short letter. It seems to be addressed to. We're not exactly certain, but it seems to be a wicked form of poem or love note. You'll make more sense of it once you get to read it. The reason why I ask you that you keep this as private as possible is, of course, well, Celera, you're a little bit of a local celebrity, as I'm sure you already know, and you being implicated in any kind of murder would reflect very poorly on, well, the town guard itself, but also in the spirits of our other people.
Quick question about the poem.
Go ahead.
The poem at the warehouse is something similar to that.
No, it's that was my initial thought, but you'll see it once you get to read it. It's more of a confession of intent. You'll understand. Just let me go through the rest of the information first.
Sorry.
As he's saying this information, like, if anybody looks at me, my face has gone like as pale as possible, and I am like kind of like dumbfounded, like, what? Like, what do you mean it had my name on it? But like, I'm not saying anything. I'm just like silent and like.
You can
not
really
really
see that the guards in the back are sort of starting to pack some things from the evidence, and one of them is standing next to the sheriff, and they're holding the aforementioned pack, and he's sort of like holding a hand to keep them at bay, and his eyes are on you, Celera, and he keeps talking and says, well, aside from this pack, this little pouch, there's another detail that I'm concerned about. As you're all aware, the 3 bodies that you found the other night had been desecrated. They had been marked on the chest with a 7-pointed star. We've found one of the remains here. One of the 2 victims had been marked in the same way, and you'll be able to see it in just a moment. It's a gruesome view, but it's not as bad as what happened to the young lass. Vinder's daughter, or well, we assume it is her. It's hard to tell. She's been dropped into the windmill and ground through the machinery.
Oh, Jesus. I mean, Iomade. Before we continue, I've just got a question on that. Did she happen to have similar features to Celera, like her hair?
No, Catherine was a local beauty, yes, but she was a more traditional beauty, if that's an apt description of her. Well, most strikingly different would be the fact that her hair was a dark tone of red, almost black, but with the distinct base color of red. Although, now that you do mention it, she did have a pale skin like Celera, and well, it's a different kind of aspect, but you could say there is a parallel to be made between the 2 of them. That's besides the point, though. The two of them were found dead this morning. It's been about an hour and a half since then. From what we've been able to ascertain, they were alive until at least midnight, as the windmill was running through the night. Aside from that, well, I'm gonna have to leave the extrapolation from the clues to the lot of you. Any questions before I leave you with my underlings?
Any tips for murder investigation?
Well, besides the fact that you should keep this as under wraps as much as possible, I would advise you. I don't know if you remember, a few years back, there was a series of murders. While the murder spree was stopped after a long hunt, we never truly were able to put the criminal behind bars. We were never able to find them. We just managed to stop them from continuing their operations. So I'll see if I can find any of the old documents on that investigation that I led. And my main reason for trying to keep this as secretive as possible is, well, the people weren't really happy with the outcome of that event, and there's some that might start to think the butcher is back.
When you mean keep it kind of under wraps, does that mean that we're not allowed to question people in the area to see if they saw anything, or like how secretive are we keeping that specific?
I think the cat's out of the bag on the murder there, Dobbin. I don't know if you heard the crowd, but I think he's talking about the details.
I'm just verifying.
Yes, you have my full support to do any kind of interrogations that you might require. Just try and keep the details of the methods by which the murder occurred as vague as possible. Should you find any further victims, I would suggest that you report it immediately and try to cover the scene up as much as possible. As much as it pains me, it might be better to delay the announcement of any deaths for a couple of days until we can handle the public unrest.
I mean, the people outside already know, so it's likely that the town will know of the murders very quickly.
Yes, I'm keenly aware. Harker is the other worker here at the mill. He was the one that found the bodies this morning, and he wasn't exactly exactly. He was very vocal about what was going on.
Is he a trustworthy individual, Parker?
Harker has been working here.
Harker, sorry.
Harker has been working here for several years now. We haven't had any kind of trouble with him. Only the odd complaint from the Lord Scarnetti about minor infractions, some pieces of wood missing, a couple coins short of the expected returns at the end of the month, but nothing that could be escalated to a full-on investigation. Should you want to find him, he has been detained as the current main suspect, but I don't think either him or Ven, I don't think you've had the pleasure of meeting Ven Vinder. he's the father of one of the victims. I've had to detain him earlier today. He was
What's his name? Sorry.
Vinder. I've had to put him behind bars. I've had him to put him behind bars because he was quite violent upon hearing of the death of his elder daughter. I think it's just the grief getting to him. Don't think any poorly of him.
Can we roll some knowledge locals on the butcher?
Sure. Give me a knowledge local.
I mean, Red's like 40 something, so he might have been around when that happened.
I kind of feel like maybe Robin just isn't paying attention.
Okay, sure. Don't roll for it. Oh, you rolled an 8.
Whatever.
I do have to do a small retcon while you guys are doing those rolls. One of the victims is Harker. The person that is working here and was detained is Ivor.
Oh, Ivor. Okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
I would probably roll, but I'm still too.
Yeah, no, you're like.
I can't. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like barely listening, and it just is like all kind of like muffly, and I can't really like focus on any one thing. So I'm not gonna roll.
At this point, Dorbin is gonna like snap his fingers from your face. Like, hey, pay attention, come back.
Hey,
Don't worry about any of that
Dorbin.
stuff. There's work to do.
She's in the worst position here of any of us. Just give her a break, man.
But we know she didn't do it. She's been with us.
We know she didn't do anything. I
Look,
know, but
look.
People are being killed and left with her name on it. That'll fuck you up a little bit.
Look, I'm keenly aware of the complications involved in this event. I'm just gonna leave the details of this investigation to your discretion. You are being given full reign on the investigation. I will go out, dedicate myself to keeping civil unrest under control.
You don't happen to have a spare badge we could flash at people?
Have I not given Solera and I was sure I had deputized you already.
So there and I.
Yeah, Solera and Sigus.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
I was gonna say I don't know what happened to that one.
I'll look. I'll find badges to deputize the rest of you. Come pick them up once you find the time to.
Durham's like, actually, I do actually have a badge.
All right.
2.
Wait, 2? How'd you get another one?
We picked them up off the bodies.
Oh my God!
They're heroes.
Oh,
I've been washed.
Look, those. I would appreciate if you could hand those back. I'll make sure that I produce badges for the rest of you.
I'll be honest, I forgot about them. Yeah, here, you can have them. I apologize.
Thank you.
God, Dolphin. Jesus, man.
All right.
It's the badge.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like the memento in law enforcement, right? Like, it's the thing. You're supposed to give that back.
I mean, we had just killed a demon. I was more focused on reporting that than.
Hey, Dorbin. Nice.
I understand how your mind might have been.
Oh, I guess they're from the Paladins. That makes sense.
No, they're from Chewie and Ra.
Yeah, that's what I thought, and then it was after the dinner. I was
No.
confused by the second line. I was with you at the beginning.
I can understand where your mind might have gone on that subject, so I don't hold it against you. That being said, I will leave you with the rest of our companions to investigate the rest of the scene. I'll be heading
One
out.
last question.
Go ahead.
The previous murders of the butcher. Did he also leave the 7?
No, which is why I'm inclined to think that this is someone else. That will not stop the people from speaking.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You understand how that works.
Yeah.
How'd our knowledge locals go on the butcher anyway?
Red, you were around when the series of murders from the butcher. Wait, hang on. How old are you?
He is 40 something. Let me
Okay.
check exactly.
It's been a while. It's been about 10 years since the spree of murders. 10 or 5. Hang on.
42.
Give me 1 second. I wanna double check when the murders from the butcher were. Oh, it was about 6. They started about 6 years ago and they ended around a year later. So it's been 5-6 years since the butcher's murder spree. But he says, I don't think this is the modus operandi of the butcher, and I believe there's someone else running around. But Red, you were around certainly back in the day. It was because of the butcher's killing spree that Vishki decided to put you at work in Magnamart instead of in Sandspoint. Because having one murder was enough. One serial murder in town.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
And... Yep.
Magnum was nice that time of year.
Alright. Is there any other questions you'd like to ask before I depart? Alright. Any help that you might need? You are hereupon conceded the title of Deputy Sheriff of Sunpoint. You might ask these goons for help at any point. He sort of gestures at the 2 other guards that are in the mill, and they sort of look a little bit unsettled at how they were addressed, but they sort of lower their head and give you a nod, confirming what he just said. He says, "All right. On that note, I'm gonna be heading out." He opens up the door, gives you one last nod as he bids you goodbye, closes the door, and you can hear his voice sort of booming as he steps outside and says, "All right, everyone, there's nothing to be afraid of. There's just been a small complication. Please disperse. Everything is under control. We have the Heroes of Sunpoint on it, all right? Everything's going to be fine. We're going to catch whoever perpetrated these small crimes." And you can hear him sort of trying to wrangle the people to leave the streets open. Dorban, the guard that has the leather pouch that has Solera written on it, hands you the pouch on a sort of felt handkerchief. And on that same handkerchief, there's the paper with the letter that reads as follows. You will learn to love me, desire me in the time as she did. Give yourself to the pack, and it all shall end. Signed, Your Lordship. Solera.
I'll ask Solera if that means anything.
What the fuck?
Solera, I would like you to roll me a perception check.
Okay.
You've seen that pouch before. In fact,
I've seen that.
yeah, you've seen that pouch before. In fact, You vividly remember putting that pouch on your nightstand because that's the pouch where you usually stow away some of your cosmetics.
Oh.
Well,
I'm just gonna be like, that's my pouch.
I mean, it has your name on it. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
why does creepy lordship man have your pouch?
How did he get it?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Did you not? Do you normally just leave it in your room? Like, did he break in?
When was the last time you saw it? Is probably the best question here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When was the last time I saw it?
Last night when you set it on your nightstand, but it wasn't just.
Oh, did he? That's what you said. Okay.
Depends. Does Celera put on makeup every day?
Yes.
Okay, then yeah, definitely. The last time you saw it was technically not today's morning, but yesterday's morning when you put makeup on and then you left it on your nightstand.
Okay. So
It's a break time for us.
he knows where you are staying.
Everybody knows where she's.
Yeah, everybody knows where I'm
No,
staying.
no, but I mean like the specific room you're staying in. That worries me.
It's not that difficult.
I guess little Jabber, he's really excited. He's like, wait, are you saying this is your pouch?
Yeah.
Yes.
You should go find out if anything else is missing. Because if he's taken something else of yours, we can track those items with magic.
That's big brain.
That is big brain.
I was also going to look for any kind of maybe fabric or anything that maybe the victims had been able to tear from them while they were being assaulted.
Absolutely.
Sorry to interrupt. Would you care to see the murder scene upstairs or the? Oh, sorry, which of the two bodies would you like to see first?
Let's see. I would like to see Catherine's first.
Certainly. And he sort of leads you around. And I think I've fucked up because I said it's a windmill and this is a water mill. First off,
Yeah.
because it literally has a water wheel outside.
Yeah, that's what I figured you meant.
Yeah. And also just to be specific on it, it's a lumber mill, a water
Okay.
water wheel
Gotcha.
lumber mill.
Oh, that's why there's all the logs floating in the river upstream.
Yep. And the mechanism that has affected Catherine's body is the saws that quarter and then so the way this machine works is a log is raced from the river up the side of the lumber mill, brought in through the top in one of the openings, and then slowly lowered into the machinery, which cuts the log in 8 and then chops it in regular intervals.
Yeah.
When they say they are showing you Catherine's body, they sort of gesture at a pile of lumber which has been covered in somewhat regularly sized chunks of limbs and torso and head. Her face has been mangled and cut in 4 parts. And you can find a piece of her scalp with her dark red hair sort of trapped in one of the mechanisms.
Right. Well, she didn't go quietly if she was awake for this, so there'll definitely be people who heard something.
Yeah. I would like to look for a hand or two.
Sure. One of her hands, her left hand, has been cut in half around between the ring finger and middle finger, and the other hand has been sort of chopped off at the height of her arm, so it's it's whole. Go ahead and give me everyone a perception check.
Okay.
Red's gonna be, well, Dorbin's looking at that. Red is looking specifically at the saw for kind of how she was lowered into it, if he can figure that out.
Certainly. I see 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm missing 1. There we go.
There's my
Oof,
natural one.
Oof.
Beautiful.
It's a
Dorbin.
10.
So, Dorbin, Solera, Robin. There are several details that you're picking up on. Aside from what you see, which is evident, you're also picking up there's a smell of rotten flesh, but it's sort of lingering in the air, and it's not the kind of the smell that you expect from a body that's been dead for about an hour, but it's still it smells like a little bit of a small amount of rotten flesh was left somewhere and has been rotting for weeks in this room. It's sort of not particularly evident because there is also the smell of fresh what is it called, sawdust in particular, and there's also fresh lumber, and the sawdust is sort of lingering in the air, and you can feel that sort of itchiness in your nose that's opening it up to the senses, and you also pick up those notes of rotten flesh in the air. Red, you're sort of looking at the mechanism, and there's a feed at the top that sort of guides the trunk, the log to be cut, and the only way that you can fall into the mechanism is through that chute. So you would have to be at least on the second level in order to fall in there.
Well, I can tell you guys one thing, and that is that she had to come down from the second level to get into this thing. But I can't see much here.
Real quick, I vaguely remember, Celera, you were talking about hearing a sound when we were at that warehouse?
Yeah, it was like a sitar playing in the distance.
When we ask around, we probably should ask to see if they heard a sitar. Because it's possible that this person may be like a traveler of some sort.
Okay.
And he may, or the suspect may be literally following Celera's trail. And this is how we keep interacting with these people.
Huh.
Should I show you to the other body?
Did I happen to find anything in the hands at all, or hands or around where the corpse was diced? Like any...
Look under her fingernails. See if she's got some fabric.
Her right arm, right hand that has been severed, does seem to have a little bit of a laceration on the back of the hand. That seems to indicate that she was she might have got cut with something that it wasn't a saw, because the wound is pretty superficial. Aside from that, she is wearing a very, very mundane copper ring in her pinky finger. It's the kind of ring that you give sort of like a prom ring kind of thing, like your prom date kind of ring. Not quite an engagement, but sort of
Like a promise ring?
promise ring, exactly.
Gotcha. Okay.
I will let everybody know there's a promise ring.
Alright. Anything else you would like to check out? Any details that you're looking for?
Can
Finding
we?
the- Go.
Sorry, I was gonna say, can we kind of, because this is where the body came down.
Came out of.
So,
Yeah.
Or yeah, came out of. But while we're on this floor, and someone else is gonna need to roll this for me. Red's gonna kind of look around for and maybe ask Robin to help with this. Look for like methods of entry, because someone had to get in and do this. So he wants to see if there's any like obvious signs of like a broken window, or the lock on the door's been picked or something like that.
Sure. You can. Robin and Red, you can probably. You're probably best suited to check that out.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Sure.
Especially with Robin.
If I was gonna break into this place, how would I do it?
Sure. Give me a. Give me a disable device check first.
Disable? Okay.
Yeah, disable device. Alright. So you're pretty handy with locks. Especially with doors. You've had a lot of practice in a certain dungeon.
Yep.
Specific trap.
And one very specific trap. And as you're sort of like checking the front door, you see that it hasn't been tampered with. The door shows signs of having very recently been opened with a key. It seems like nobody forced it open. And as you're sort of looking around, trying to figure out like where the mechanism for the lock splitter is, you're sort of like checking the gears. You see that the control panel is there are two sections from which you can operate it, one on the ground level and one up top from where the logs are fed into the mechanism. As you're sort of looking around, you do see a good spot where you might be able to hop in, hop out of the building without opening the door, and that's the three distinct openings up on the highest level, from where the logs are brought into the building with a crane, and then there's two windows on either side. Sorry, one window to each side.
Okay. I'll go up and I'll check those openings. I can, walk up the wall or whatever, what have you.
Sure. As you're walking up the door, you see the second body on the second floor, and you're sort of walking up beside it and going still higher up. The guard doesn't seem to have noticed the fact that you just walked on the door and just disappeared from his radius of sight. But sure enough, the second body.
Yeah.
You see the second body has been pretty mangled on the arms and legs. In fact, one of the legs seems to have been almost completely been rent off at the height of the knee, and their arms are sort of stretched back. One arm sort of being held in place by the levers of the mechanism. The other arm has been struck through with a wooden stake and sort of attached to the wall by it, sort of nailed to the wall. And his chest is bare. You can see that the remains of his shirt are on the floor around him. And in plain view, center of his chest, you see the 7-pointed star has been carved in, and it seems to be pretty surgically carved in. And as you keep going up, you reach the third floor, and you can see the three openings, one facing south, one facing east, and one facing north.
All right. Can I take 10 to perception the openings to see if I can find those claw marks? Got a +5, so it'll be a 50.
Sure. Sure. So as you take your time peeking out from each of the windows, you recall Cyrus sort of having been looking at the exterior of the building as you guys were heading in, and as you peer out the southern wall, southern window and look down, you can see that one trail of blood, as if one single drop had stuck to the wall and dripped down, and it sort of gets stuck in that broken brick in the wall. And as you're sort of taking your time to look out, you start to walk down the outside wall, and you can see that there's a familiar sight. You see several sort of indentations in the wall that seem to indicate that something was struck through the material in the wall, and in a zigzag pattern, perhaps like a python for climbing. And they are in sets of 3.
Okay. So in sets of 3, that makes me think claws.
It reminds you of the kind of pattern that you saw outside the warehouse.
Yeah. So Robin will, hop back in, report back to Red, and be like, yeah, so claw marks just like at the barn that we were at, the warehouse.
Well, that's not good.
Yeah, so we got some sort of creature responsible for this.
Wait, you saw the ones at the warehouse?
Did they have
Yeah.
claws? They did,
Well,
right?
Oh, no. On the outside of the barn, we saw what we...
No, you didn't. The only person that saw that was Robin, and he kept it to himself.
No, I thought we...
Oh no,
walked
you
around.
guys did
Yeah,
walk outside
we
afterwards.
also saw it, but Robin wasn't there when we saw it, so that's why
Yeah.
Dorvin's confused.
How
How
hang
did you
on.
know?
I
thought it
mean,
was-
we would have told them about that, I think. Like,
Yeah, but
right?
I mean, unless he went and looked at it, he wouldn't know if there were some or not.
I mean,
either.
it doesn't really matter, but I like Rob. The thing is, Robin had seen the things from inside, and you guys saw it from the outside, but Robin didn't tell you about it originally. Anyway, keep going.
Red's gonna say, well, it does sound like what we saw on the outside of the barn back at Cougar Creek, but I think we only saw the tracks in and then the weird claw things out there, so I wonder if that's not it leaving, especially if you're saying that there's blood on the wall, right? So
Yeah.
maybe it came in through another way.
It doesn't look like it broke in through the front door. It's pretty much unscathed.
And I mean, neither of the windows look like they're broken, but it could have jumped in through one of the saw holes or something, especially if it can climb.
Yeah,
Also,
it definitely
gotta-
does look like it can.
We gotta consider that this thing is probably pretty intelligent, especially if it's writing love letters, I guess.
Yeah.
So
Or
it
it
may
can
not.
transform.
It may not be a creature per se. More of a who than a what.
Maybe.
I think I've asked you this twice already, but should I show you where the other body is?
Yeah, yes, please. And
Yes.
and if you guys have seen anything else, even slightly out of the ordinary, please point us to it. It could be instrumental. We've had additional information from a previous similar murder.
All right. If anything comes to mind, I will make sure to tell you about it. So follow me. It's up the set of ladders, and he starts to go up the ladders. Eventually, he shows you to where the body that I described previously is. But as you guys are sort of walking around and checking the scene a little bit more, you can see that the place where the controls are is right in front of where the chute to feed the machine is. And right beside the chute, there is a axe sort of stuck to the wooden floor, right beside the chute itself.
So I don't know about you guys, but I have 2 questions based on the description that you gave. First would be looking at the stake. Is that just a splinter of wood, or is it actually a crafted stake? Second, the axe. Does it look like it was used to defend by someone to defend themselves or bludgeon someone with?
Give me a survival check.
Can someone roll that?
Someone roll from
Yes.
Red's character sheet.
Got it.
Thanks.
Hey.
Hey, Lamau.
So most definitely, like from the pattern of blood pooling around the body and sprayed upon the walls, there definitely was some kind of struggle here. The axe's head is bloody, and there's a bloody set of fingerprints on the handle of the blade. On the handle of the axe. And as you're sort of getting a little bit closer and inspecting, there's also the distinct smell of rotting flesh is now pretty obvious, and it's coming from the axe itself. And there's also 3 sets of footprints on the bloody pool. One of them are very clearly from working boots. One of them is from a small set of slippers, and the other one seems to be barefoot.
Does the barefoot one look? Well, actually, 2 questions. Does the barefoot one look clawed, and does the handprint on the axe look like it matches the dude that's nailed to the wall?
Hard to tell unless you you could grab the hand and sort of place it next to it to check.
Before he does that, he will defer to the others to let them check out anything in here undisturbed before he starts doing things.
Also, the barefoot one, the set of barefoot footprints do not seem to be clawed. They seem to be human feet.
Well, whoever did this doesn't seem to like wearing shoes, and someone certainly put up a fight.
I think that lends itself to the theory that the person can transform.
At least has a normal lower. Or lower half.
Dorban, Silera, and Red, give me knowledge religion checks as you're in that area and sort of get that lingering smell in your nose again.
Oof.
Oof!
Oh.
Double nat ones.
God damn.
What the hell?
I can't even roll it.
God
nope.
Son.
If you're not trained in it.
Yeah,
Sigus, you can also roll for it.
Yay!
I will mention that at the Cougar Creek we did learn that ghoul. We smelled bad smells and learned about ghouls and ghasts. So Red is kind of thinking of that.
Sure. Red, you mention it as sort of like as a passing note, like you know what the ghast the ghoul that we fought we think was a ghoul did smell pretty bad. And Sigus, on that note, like, yeah, ghouls and ghasts are well known to have a really fucking bad stench, to the point where it causes you to be nauseous if you get close to them. And from the smell of it, it looks like whatever is causing that stench might be coming from a creature such as a ghoul or a ghast, or a similar rotten stenched undead creature.
Gross.
Yuck.
Damn.
Okay, so I don't understand why a ghoul or a ghast would be obsessed.
It's likely that
It
it's
could
a
be.
servant to who's actually obsessed to, would be my guess.
Or
That
it
would
was
be
a
your
person who
gas.
is now one of them.
punch, Robin.
I'm glad about that.
Sorry.
You definitely get kneecapped for that one. But yeah, I mean, necromancers are a thing, so I would guess that it's some sort of, or I mean, vampires. There's a lot of things that have gas as minions.
I don't know a lot about religion or anything like that, but and Corbin, do you know if they're intelligent at all? Like, do they retain who they are?
Dorban, somehow you skipped your lessons on undead. Usually it's you shouldn't deal with undead, and if you do, burn them with holy fire.
Yeah. I'm a battle cleric, not a book cleric.
Yep.
Well,
Sigis, would you like to be able to answer that question?
Yes, I would like to be able to answer that question.
All right. You've heard, you've read a section of one or two books during your magical studies. Sort of the things that you should avoid doing at all costs, because necromancy is your opposed school, if I'm not mistaken.
It is.
Indeed. Okay, so
I
things.
might not.
It's sort of the know your enemy kind of mentality of teaching. Ghouls and ghasts are the type of undead that can be intelligent, unlike their zombie counterparts.
Well, that's unfortunate, because that means, I mean, what you're saying, Dorbin, it could be just doing this on its own.
Well, if there's 3 sets,
Well,
I mean, one's a work boot, which, I mean, it could be somebody that, I mean, it could be Catherine.
well, I was going to say, I think the work boot's this fellow, and I figure he was swinging that axe about too. I was going to put his hand up and his boot up and see if they matched.
Yeah.
But I wanted to let you guys take a look at it first, because it might be in this position for a reason.
Most likely.
Also, that stake in the wall, is that like tailor-made, or is
No, that looks like somebody grabbed a piece of the log that was already processed and fucking rammed it at Mach velocity into that arm.
Wow.
Damn.
So unless anyone's complaining, Red's just gonna the boot, and the boot print matches this guy, and the handprint on the axe does too.
Sure. As you sort of remove the boot from the lifeless corpse, and you put it next to the bloody footprint, it sure enough the work boot seems to match that set of footprints perfectly. When you bring the axe to the hand, however, those fingerprints are way too small to be this man's.
Huh.
Are they like my size?
Is it closer to Catherine's size?
Way closer.
Somebody
As
held her hand?
I mean, as you've had her hand in your hands, that looks like Catherine's fingerprints.
Oh,
It looks
I
like
guess she
Catherine's
was a
the
bit
one
of
swinging the axe. Hell yeah.
a bit of a battle axe then, eh?
I mean, it usually comes with the hair.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, probably not the time for this, but yeah.
Quite a few redheaded dwarves, and they can swing an axe, that's for damn sure.
I don't think I mean, she's short, but I don't think she's that
No.
short.
No, she's not a dwarf for sure. Her hands are way too delicate.
Is there enough of her body left to tell if she was maybe like turned into some kind of undead, kind of like the people we've encountered?
No,
Um,
her body has just been mangled into too many pieces.
Sigus will do his, required scanning with detect magic too.
Sure. You don't detect magic anywhere in the building, aside from the magical auras emanating from your friends.
Except for us.
Yeah.
There's no trails of magical
Robbing
auras, no
magical
overwhelming auras
beauties.
that were in the area recently.
Nope. Nothing
Right.
overwhelming, no.
I'm honestly sad that I didn't prepare detect undead because it would be great to see if they were strong enough within the last like hour. I mean, I guess I was like looking at the spell and it would have had to been within an hour of them dying. Of the undead being here, most likely. At most. Unless it's super strong, then it lasts for days. And if we find one super strong, we are not equipped.
Yeah,
to
that is a we run away.
We're gonna
Yeah.
go the opposite direction.
Good
no,
luck.
but,
Sam.
okay. So.
Is there anything else that you'd like to see before we start cleaning the scene?
So he's pinned to the wall, correct?
So one arm is pinned to the wall, the other arm is sort of forcefully jabbed through the gears that hold the lever to activate the log splitter, and his legs are sort of now they've been disturbed, but originally one leg was almost entirely ripped off at the height of the knee, and the other one was sort of kneeling on the ground. So he's low enough that his arms are sort of dangling upwards. His torso is being held by his arms, and his waist is about a foot and a half away from the floor.
So what I'm getting is, in the struggle, they turned on the mill, or the mill was on, and they shoved his arm into the gears. So that would have had to happen after they threw her down.
Right.
You know
Because it would
what?
have stopped the machinery.
Right.
You know what I think? I think it might have been used to jam the machine on, so that the murderer could just like let her run through while he got away.
Well,
yeah, maybe.
Well, I mean,
I don't know what the setup is.
can
like,
we
out of
see
character.
if the arm has stopped it from working, or if it was?
Because like
I mean, if
Robin,
it's stuck in the gears, I would assume it stopped. it.
Robin, you as I mentioned before, you did notice that there are two levers to control the mechanisms.
Yes, there are.
So there's
One I would assume sets speed, and one I assume turns
No,
on.
so there's one upstairs, one set of levers, which is the one where
The guy is.
the Harker's body is, and there's another set of levers on the ground floor, which seem to be to control the machinery as well.
Okay, so can I figure out? And it's a pair at each.
Yeah, it's
Place, right?
it's two on each. Yeah.
Can I discern what does what?
Yeah, knowledge engineering.
Knowledge engineering.
Or you can try the levers.
Can I try a disable device?
I'll give it to you. You can
Right.
treat this as if it were a
Maybe
trap.
try a disable device to see if his arm is what stopped it. That would probably be the most applicable use of this.
Also ask your brainy friend.
So
Yeah, I was gonna say,
If I wanted to stop this device, would I
Solaire
shove a
or
man's arm
Sigis
in?
could probably roll on it.
no, definitely no. You wouldn't shove an arm with the, inside of the mechanism of the lever. That wouldn't stop the machine. It would stop the lever from working.
And the machine's currently off, right?
The machine is currently off.
So that stopped it from working.
Well, I'll ask the guard. Was the machine running when you got here?
Yeah, the machine was still running by the time that Ivor came by the bodies this morning. In fact, the mill is usually kept running almost all day and all night long. We've had a few complaints about the noise, in fact.
Do they cut logs all night long?
Yes, after the fires that hit the water mills, the lumber mills, a few years back, we haven't had time to rebuild all of the other mills, so this one has to operate 24/7 in order to maintain the requirements for the town.
Yeah.
When was the first complaint? When did you receive the first complaint about the noise?
About a week. Yeah, about a week after they started working 24/7 on it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Did anybody report any like louder noise or additional different types of noise, or has it just been just that same?
There were complaints about cats meowing into the night very loudly around this area as well. We suspected that the madame was starting to enlarge her litter, but we haven't found any kind of explanation for it. But they were complaining about it as well. That's about the as much as I know about the complaints, but I could check the records for any kind of other complaints that were presented.
Yeah, yeah. Let us know if there were any other complaints around when this would have happened.
Sure.
Yes.
'Cause I'd be interested to know, like, if and when those complaints happened, to maybe put a little bit of a better time.
Certainly.
Also, like, it would probably be a good idea at some point to ask everybody that's very close by if they heard anything last night specifically.
Certainly, but if you'd like to see how much noise the windmill causes, so that you get an idea of what it would be like, you can operate it from the levers downstairs. That's how we stopped it this morning.
Gotcha.
Can I check out the wound on this guy's leg where they something almost tore it off?
Certainly. Give me a heal check.
All right. Look, that I even got it down here on my
Hell
bar.
yeah.
Fortunately, I rolled though.
That looks like it was caused by a rather large blade. We are talking a butcher's knife, a meat cleaver.
Yeah.
Yikes.
That's not really what I wanted to hear.
Oh,
A butcher, you say?
I
Mhm.
have an
Like a
idea.
weak man who took many, many swings to get through. Yes.
It looks like the leg took one or two swings from a meat cleaver, because you can see like the flesh on the calf has been rent upwards, but the cut that broke through the bone and separated the leg from the lower leg was a downward strike, and it sort of cut the head of the femur.
All right. So, from what I know of butcher knives, would that knife be able to make the slashing mark that was on Catherine's hand that I found?
No, definitely not. That was a much smaller thing and much more sharper.
All right.
Okay.
Give me another heal check for your Catherine's hand.
All right. That's much
go.
better.
No.
Comparing the two things and looking back on it, the wound on Catherine's hand looks more like a panther or a cat-like animal, a feline, clawed her hand, ripping from her wrist and away from it, so towards her fingers.
Cats,
my
you say?
God. Why does Dorban not know this information? Fuck.
It looks like three fingered claw marks, essentially.
You're a battle cleric,
Oh,
not a
okay.
study cleric.
Well, no, my first thought immediately leapt to the druid, the goblin druid, but it wouldn't have just been the 3 claw marks. So I mean, it seems to be that whatever creature climbed this was what slashed this girl's hand, and then there was somebody else with a meat cleaver. So we know that there was at least 2 assailants here.
Why?
Yeah, I assume it's red.
Oh yeah. So,
Hello.
guy. So thoughts.
Yeah, you are.
I so I met 2 adventurers at the Rusty Dragon yesterday. Yesterday. And
day before yesterday. At
day
night.
before yesterday.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know if they have anything to do with it, but they kind of seemed very tense and on edge when I was talking with them and asking what they were doing, and they said that they were passing through. They were mostly kind, but one of them was a very large fella, and then there was a woman with him, and I don't know if they have anything to do with it, if they know me. I've never seen them before. But you're basically telling me that there is a cat marked, and then some, I'm assuming, very strong person used a meat cleaver, and so the 2 people that popped in my head were those 2.
I've gotten. Well, actually, I've got a question about them first. Did they say where they was headed?
They said they were headed to Magnamar.
No, they said they came from Magnamar. They were
They
headed
came from
north.
Oh, all right. I mean, I was gonna say if they was going on a riddle pull or something, I could understand why they'd be acting fishy because everyone there's a crook, and they don't like exposing their stories to others. But
Railport is north from here.
yeah, and that's kind of why Red's bringing it
Yeah.
up. But the other thing that Red wants to point out is he'll say, I know that our sheriff doesn't think this is the butcher, but the wounds here seem to say a little bit otherwise. And if ghouls and gas are undead, could it be that whoever was the butcher was brought back?
It's possible.
Yeah, that's.
I was also thinking along the same lines.
Because that seems like a bad situation to me, because that guy, I remember that year, they had to send me and a couple others, Jabrail sent me and a couple others to Magnamar to get us clear of any implications, but a lot of people died.
I mean, the real question is I mean, once we can get the reports, was he targeting females? Were there anything about females left at the scenes? I'm trying to establish some kind of, if it is similar or if not, like I want to either find a lot of similarities or none, so that we can be done with either looking into the butcher or look more into the butcher.
Okay, I mean,
it just seems weird to have undead into it now.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I just figured out the entire thing.
Yeah.
Sure,
Yeah, the butcher was killed by Jabrail, right?
No, I don't think he was ever stopped.
No, yeah. As far as we know,
like
he was never stopped.
no one ever found him. Jabrail sent me and some others away because he was worried that we was going to get pinned with the murders.
Oh.
Yeah.
Are you sure he didn't just, like, get rid of him?
I mean, you know Jabrail, he could have, but unless there was money for him in doing it, I think he would have profited off the pandemonium. People were scared. They would be willing to pay for protection.
It's a good point, because my theory was that, well, I mean, it's also been how many years? The guy could probably be dead, right?
Yeah, it's possible.
Because my theory is that somebody found his corpse and made him an undead creature.
I assume somebody offed him because he was going strong for a year and then he just stopped. And
yeah,
the sheriff said, no one ever found him, but something stopped him.
Well, I don't think that's the case because we have undead wounds and also cleaver wounds. So unless the undead is also wielding a cleaver, which I guess is possible.
I mean, in this case, yeah, because he was the butcher, right? He used a cleaver, I'd imagine.
But I would also have to assume that the claws are more effective.
I don't think serial killers care.
Especially if he's some sort of weird obsessed undead dude.
Why use the claw at all? Then?
No, but he's right because like the MO doesn't match.
There's no reason to use the claw if you've got the cleaver.
Right.
If that's
Well,
what you're on
If
Oh,
that's
yeah,
his
Maybe he was
signature.
disarmed or something.
I mean, if you fight, look, to Robin's point, if you're fighting two people and you're not me with my fancy sword work, you're gonna use both your hands, right? Especially if you've got ruddy large claws on one of them.
I mean, I use both of my hands when I fight, so
I mean, speaking with battle sense, if they had a claw, they would use the claw over the cleaver
Yeah.
because it's hard to like it's easier to use the two claws than it is to use a claw and a cleaver.
well, I mean, the cleaver was used to take off the guy's leg, right?
Ooh. Or
Yeah.
if it's a transforming thing, maybe he transformed after he got the guy's leg off and got his blood up, and then he used the claws.
Well, yeah,
Possibly.
if he's
think
undead,
I
he
just
needs
don't
a
think we have
snack,
enough.
right? So he could have just used the cleaver to take off the leg because you can't really claw off an entire leg very easily. So he probably used the cleaver to take off the leg and took a snack with him.
I
Well,
think
the
the
leg's
only
still
way
here.
that we're gonna know is if we look at what has happened in the past, for like what all the butcher had done in the past, all of those reports
Yeah.
to match them up, because otherwise we're gonna be speculating until the cows.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. I think it's
Yeah.
time to get more information. I don't think we can get much
you-
from what we've got.
Yeah.
I think we should give the rest of this place a good once over. You never know what
Yeah,
we might
for sure.
find inside or outside. So,
Agreed.
yeah, I was gonna say on that note, I don't know if you'll let us go for this, but yeah, definitely try to take 20.
Sure,
on
you
this
can
if
you can
possible.
take 20. It's gonna take you about 4 hours to go over the entire scene if you're taking 20 and trying to.
Does that count going outside the building as well?
Yeah, I'll give you going outside the building and trying to spot everything that you can.
And
Or
like I
actually,
can check the walls and the roof and everything like that without any trouble.
Certainly.
I mean,
Cool.
metagaming a little bit. If we know who's got the highest perception scores, we just leave them to take 20 and then have everyone else go canvas.
I mean, that's what I was thinking, was to split up so that we can.
I
get
think
more
we should split
information.
up and make our own checks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sigis is also gonna suggest that at some point at the end of tonight, Silaire and Sigis, we should go check to see if anything was missing. Anything else of hers was missing?
Yeah, I would say that the people with the best perceptions stay. The best at looking for shit stay and look through here. The people who are best talking to people go canvas, and then the people who aren't good at either go check to see if Stellaris is missing anything else.
We can do that, like, there's no time thing, like, for the thing that Sigis could do to help, I can't do that today, I'd have to do that tomorrow, so that's not a priority for now.
All right. So who's doing what and when?
All right, so
Just
my
get
perception is
shit.
+8.
So is mine.
I'm +5, but I can also climb walls and check the roof.
Yeah.
Or I mean,
Got 3! I'm gonna go talk to people!
And Red?
Bye.
bye.
Bye, Red.
Hey,
Wait,
Hi,
is
hi.
mine +5?
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
mine's +5, not +8.
Okay. So what's your perception bonus, Red?
+9, so I should be
Alright.
staying here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the two rogues might be staying at the crime scene. How bad does that look?
I mean, Dorbin is also staying because he has the second highest perception.
certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
So Solera and Sigis, you guys are gonna go talk to people and try and find
Yeah.
more information. Okay.
One with charisma should definitely come with me.
Sure can.
Sure.
I was gonna
Okay.
say,
So
Red's not bad at talking to people either. If
Yeah.
he finishes searching the grounds and then can start chatting to people outside.
certainly. So what kind of information does the away party would like to? Sorry. What kind of information would the away party like to go after? What kind of what line of investigation are you following?
Well, I would like to know if they heard anything more than the normal goings on here at
Okay.
the place.
So your
so
best
when-
bet for that kind of information would be to either talk to the person who works at the lumber mill, that one that's been held as a primary suspect, or the neighbors of the lumber mill, which would include the madame who works diagonal from there, or the townhouse that is in front of the lumber mill.
So thinks we should also look into like if there's other reasons these people might have been targeted, or if they was just convenient. So learn a bit more about the two.
All right. So which angle would you like to approach that with?
Well, the person that's a suspect isn't necessarily going in, right?
Yep.
He's in jail.
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like maybe we ask neighbors that are around, and the madame, and then question the guy in jail.
Sure.
What do you think, Steve?
Would you like to take 20 on that so that we can coordinate both groups?
Sure.
All right. So away party, you go to visit the local townhouse, ask around. Then you might go over to the madames and ask around if they've heard anything, they've seen anything. And sure enough, what you get the sort of general consensus is that everyone's annoyed at the amount of noise coming from the lumber mill every night. The people living in the townhouse in front of the mill are pissed. They haven't been able to sleep regularly for months now. It's like every other night they don't get any sleep at all. Aside from that, one of them saw Catherine walking into the mill a couple nights ago, and then again the week prior to that, and they are not certain if she hadn't been going there pretty regularly. And they're sort of saying that between whispers, and like I think Catherine and Harker might have been, and she sort of they sort of gesture with their fingers crisscrossing between her hands.
Bumping uglies.
Essentially.
For the people that seem angry,
Yeah.
can I do like a sense motive on them? Like maybe get a little bit. Obviously they're angry and they're conveying that they're angry, but if I were to roll a sense motive, would it allow me to maybe better understand like what their motives might be?
Sure. Give me a sense motive. I get the kind of question that you're going for.
Yeah.
Damn.
Cool.
You also rolled sense motive and not a perform oratory.
Oh.
Yeah.
I did.
Which means that it's probably way higher.
It's like a 34 or some shit.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
So, the feeling that you get is, one, they're pissed in general because they've been having a hard time living next to the mill. They also have a lot of built up disdain for the Scarnetti, for Lord Scarnetti, because they keep complaining every now and then, not just about the fact that the windmill is noisy, but the fact that Lord Scarnetti doesn't want to do anything about it. It's like, goddamn fat old man doesn't want to stop gaining money off of our backs and making our lives impossible, and he's just making piles upon piles of gold coins, exploiting our lives with that stupid fucking lumber mill, and like that's the kind of explanation that you get from them. Aside from that, there's sort of a Sandpoint has a bad reputation for being really bad at keeping secrets, in the sense that people love to gossip in this town. Nothing much goes on usually, so gossiping is their #1 entertainment.
Small towns.
Yeah. So like Catherine bumping uglies with Harker has been the talk in this area of town. And like people have been trying to figure it out if they are an item or not, and if because they caught her going into the windmill one time, 2 times, and it's like a growing rumor around town.
And are either Catherine or Harker taken by other people? And
No, in fact,
or are they both
ooh.
single?
In fact, Van Vinder has been very, very vocal about not wanting either of his daughters being involved with unsuitable partners. He's sort of a very overprotective father, and despite that, Catherine has had a reputation for being a little bit of a loose gun.
Oh.
I was trying to avoid saying that, but yes, she's been rumored to been with another man before Harker, and
Scandalous.
yeah, it is very scandalous in this town. Her younger sister has been a lot better behaved. And she's sort of been
Proper young lady.
She's a proper young lady, and she's been sort of contrasted with her younger sister for a while now.
Listen, Catherine is a strong, independent woman. She don't need no man except for when she wants all the men.
For when she wants one.
Yeah.
And then you go get a girl.
On the other hand, Harker has been around for quite a while, and he's not from Sandpoint. He came here from Magnamore, but he's been working pretty hard. He's made a living for himself, and he seems to be doing quite all right. In fact, there's the rumor in the street is that he's been seen doing some paperwork, perhaps to purchase a plot of land in the outskirts of town.
Now, when he came here, do we know if it was roughly the time that the butcher stopped killing?
He came here about 3 years ago, so there was a gap. Yeah.
Regarding Catherine's father.
Yes, Van Vinder.
What? Say that again.
Van Vinder. He has a.
Van Vinder.
Yeah. And it's
Vin Diesel.
Vin Diesel, yeah, no, Van Vinder. He does look a little bit like Vin Diesel.
Does he have a good or bad reputation? I know that he's very overprotective, but
he's very overprotective. He's well known around town. Like when you ask about him, people sort of go, "Oh yeah, no, he runs the shop, the local sort of general goods shop." He's been in town since he was born. He married his local sweetheart, his sort of childhood sweetheart. Had two lovely daughters. Like in general, he's a great guy, but he is known to have a really bad temper. Like you cross this man, and he will cross your face with a punch.
Okay.
And he's known to have a really mean right hook.
Okay.
Are they relatively well off?
They own a general goods shop, so
Okay.
they're merchants, which puts them on the upper half of society.
Yeah.
They are not nobles by any means. They're sort of humble people, but still they own their own business. So.
Well, the letter said nobleman, right?
The Lord?
Your lordship.
Lord. Okay. I was like something like that. And does he? So he lives here also.
Yeah, he lives in town.
Okay. And is her mother still alive?
Yes. I think you've had the pleasure of meeting her because she was running the shop one of the times.
Okay. Gotcha. Sigus, do you have any other questions that I maybe forgot or didn't think of?
Oh, I thought that was good. I think we should send, if we can get one of the guards to check in on that follow up on the property.
Yeah.
Might be worth a visit just in case. You know, I'm just
Maybe-
trying to think of like reasons why they might have been picked. Either it was easy, you know, they work alone late at night, or you know maybe he was gonna buy something. I don't know. I just think I'm trying to look for reasons why those two might be picked.
Right.
The town gossip, right? There's someone that'll draw attention. Like it's someone that'll draw two people that'll draw a crowd too.
Right.
I
Maybe-
will add this. One of the other rumors in town was that Harker was suspected of being in a secret relationship with Ivor, because they were together a lot of the time. They were the only two operators for the lumber mill, and they were Harker was only seen with Ivor outside of work, and likewise the other way around. So Ivor was only seen with Harker.
So Ivor's a girl?
Ivor is a man. Ivor Thorne.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a guy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I thought. And Harker is also a guy?
Yeah.
Yes.
They were suspected of having a secret gay relationship.
Just verifying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright.
So that's why he's a suspect.
The scandalous part was the fact that they were keeping it secret, not the gay part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, look at them! Good old Sam.
I know. Look at that.
Progressive
Progress,
thinking.
but they're still murder.
But they're still murder.
They're not tieflings.
Yeah.
though.
I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah, I was gonna say if they were
Sandpoint's fucked.
tieflings though, that'd be.
They're really open to like all sexual orientations. They're just also got a lot of slavery and are super racist.
Yeah.
you
It's
know?
almost like we're living in
What the
Greece.
fuck? It's a hip town, guys. I don't know what you expect. Like,
Welcome to the Middle Ages.
Well, it's more like Middle Ages meets the Roman Empire.
Middle Ages meets the middle of fucking nowhere. That's what's going on here.
But yeah, so that's the other rumor that you get from talking around with the local folk. That being said, I'm going to switch over to the other group. Dorbin, Red, Robin. God damn it, I keep doing the stupid mistake of saying Red Robin.
Robin.
Right, Robin.
At least it's not red rum.
Yep. So you take your time to examine every inch of this murder scene. The things that you find are you've already noticed, but the axe was sort of dropped in front of the chute. The smell of rotten flesh is coming from that axe. Upon closer inspection, Dorbin, there's a little bit of that flesh sort of. You know when you're in the bath for too long, and you've had quite a bad sunburn when your skin starts to
yeah.
peel off.
Like, yeah.
You can sort of see that peeled off skin that has had too much water, and sort of looks like a spongy layer of tissue stuck to the tip of the blade.
Wait a second.
Yes?
Is this... Dorbin will go to Robin and ask if this looks like the flesh of the things that were in that well.
Yes.
It... Hard to tell. There's very little tissue. Could be.
Robin's convinced.
Because, I mean, the warehouse is next to the well. This shit only started happening once you went down there.
Well, Red's gonna come over and look at it and be like, that also looks like the skin of the bloke that I stabbed. To
Did
be
it smell
fair,
bad when
I
Robin
mean,
went down the well?
If we...
Different kind of smell. It didn't smell like rotten flesh. It smelled like fish.
Probably not.
Which is also a really fucking bad smell, like rotten fish, but it is very different from rotting human flesh.
Could have also been masking it, right?
Could be. So the smell is very potent coming from the little bit of flesh.
Well, I'm gonna, like, kind of fold it up, and I'm gonna put it in one of my old potion bottles.
The bit of skin?
Yeah.
Okay. You take a tissue sample and put it in the bottle.
That's gonna be a
That-
wicked stink bomb, dude.
Yeah.
Well, if you can literally use it for scrying, and it makes it real fucking easy.
Yep.
Um, while they're doing that, Red would like to
So,
kind of.
Red, you were sort of during the initial bit of the investigation, you had mentioned that you wanted to also explore the outside of the building. So sure enough, now that you're taking your time and you've been told about the bit of blood on the outside, you immediately spot it. There's a little red line dropping from the windowsill, and you can see the sets of three sort of python marks drilled into the wall, and they go in a zigzag pattern, and you follow that pattern down to the floor. And sure enough, as you look there on the floor, there is a set of footprints, sort of humanoid footprints on the ground, and they are sort of leading you towards the river.
That makes sense.
Yep, and as soon as they reach the water, they disappear.
Is it upriver or downriver? Or did it go straight?
They go straight into the river, as in perpendicular to the river.
Yeah. Yeah.
On that, though, is there any like lingering smell, I guess, coming off the tracks as well?
There is a faint smell of it. Yeah. If you put your nose to the footprints, you can smell that little bit of rotten flesh stench.
I was gonna say, I think Red's theory is that this is like whatever happened to that dude in the barn, but if we left him for another couple weeks, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, the same thing that was at the barn was here, so.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is that like maybe that whatever I stabbed there, maybe that's like not it completely turning, right? Maybe stinkier and I don't know.
Because I mean, we caught the guy before he was fully turned. But...
I mean, yeah, he didn't look totally dead, right?
Yeah, I have to assume that the thing that infected that person is the same person that was here, or same.
Yeah,
guy.
no, for sure. I wonder if anyone around here saw anything.
Yeah. Hopefully, Sailor and Sigus figured out something about, like, hopefully found something that somebody heard something from here. Somebody saw somebody. All the noise. I would assume people would be watching it more, especially with the rumors of. Oh wait, I don't know that part yet.
Nope.
Oh, actually, can we check the others? Like, can I leave these
Footprints?
Like, if we've searched the rest of the building.
Yeah, just like you're gonna eventually get to the other side of the building.
Well, not the other side of the building necessarily. I meant we saw where they go into the river.
Oh, you want to check the other side of the river?
Yes.
Okay.
Like, especially if I can leave, like, because we need to crowd control the building because the bodies haven't been cleaned up, obviously.
There's guards for that though. Like there's two outside and then the two people indoors that were helping you.
Yeah. So if we finish searching the building, Red, Dorbin, and Rodman, like we should. He came out the other side, or he went for a swim.
Yeah. Agreed.
Okay. So would you like to check the other side of the river then?
We can give it a go.
Sure.
Okay.
Survival shit. But...
Yep, you're gonna have to, all of you, give me a survival check to try and see if you can find any kind of footprints leading out from the river.
Flat D20, here we go.
Oh,
Yikes.
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 So
Wow,
you
we
go over
all
to,
rolled shit.
Yep. You go on the other side of the river, and you're trying to keep where the lumber mill is in sight, and like you go from here all the way to here, and it's really hard to tell if what you're seeing are footprints from a human, or if some of the kids from town have been around this area fucking around, because it's like the area where they come and do like tiny adventures, because it's the little bit of forest where it's close enough to town that it's safe, but it's far enough from home that it's a little bit unknown and scary. And there's a lot of footprints, a little bit of traffic, and it's hard to tell what is what. What looks freshest, though, is there is a set of footprints that look like an adult moving away from the lumber mill and into the forest. And as soon as they go into the forested area, they just disappear.
Well,
That sucks.
I mean, I guess this gives us a direction he went. I don't know.
Well, someone went.
Well, I mean,
Is it blueprints or footprints?
Footprints, bare footprints.
Okay.
These footprints are barefoot, and they're a damn sight bigger than the kids. So I think it's probably.
They look like they could be female or male. It's hard to tell. It might be a young or lean-bodied male, or a woman that's on the bulkier side.
Could I
Oh.
measure the footprint?
Certainly.
I'm gonna take out my collapsible 10-foot rod and then a piece of chalk, and I'm going to like kind of get a measurement, and I'll compare it to the ones in the warehouse, see if they're similar.
Sure. It takes you a while. This is all within the 4 hours of investigation that you were set for. But sure enough, you go back to the other side of the river, back to the lumber mill, and sure enough, the measurement is the same on that set of footprints.
Oh, before we left over there, Red would have rolled the perception to see if like any pieces of cloth or anything were caught in the trees where we lost them.
No, doesn't look like it.
Okay.
I'm taking your take 20 on perception as part of this.
Okay, perfect.
All
right.
You've managed to locate the set of footprints leading out from the lumber mill and into the forest, and you've lost track of them. And it is around this time that Celera and Sigis are sort of coming back to the lumber mill to do a checkup, put information in, share information with you guys before finding what your next objective is. And on that note, a murder most foul has been committed in the quiet town of Sandpoint. And we'll find out whether the party can solve this mystery or not next time on Rise of the Runelords, their Skirmishers, because that's the end of the session.
No.
Alright guys,
It's fun.
for anyone
yeah.
for anyone that showed up to the stream, thank you for coming and watching. I'm gonna cut the stream here, and we're gonna end it. But you guys, we're gonna do a little bit of a wind down for the session, and you can tell me if there's anything that you want to see next time.
Okay.
Alright, so goodbye stream.
Peace.
Peace.
Stream.
Bye.
I